right, let's dive in. Thanks again for everyone for being here. And as I've said before, there's no coincidences in life. So I'm on daddy duty. This one's got a little bit of a fever because she's teething, but we're gonna do our best not to reschedule. And I'm happy to be able to introduce you guys to two of the participants, two of the four that were in our retreat not too long ago. We've, been obviously communicating every day in a group chat, and William and Dan have, been describing kind of, I don't know if it's so much of realizations, but just different mindset routines or techniques that they're using, how they're keeping up with exercise. Have they been making better decisions? How they've actually changed some of the things in their life as it relates to. And if anyone has any questions, just put them in the chat. We'll talk about it later. As it relates to lifestyle, to diet, to movement or exercise, whatever you want to call it, to little things like travel. One of the guys mentioned that there was a delayed flight and he'd usually get pissed because of that. And it was just another thing that happened that day that we just have to move through. So, these medicines, particularly mushrooms, when you do a high dose, definitely helps to downregulate the nervous system, keep us more in the present moment, and allows us to, deal with a lot of stimuli, if you will, in a very calm manner. So, without further ado, I'm going to ask these guys a few questions and put them on the spot. But Will, why don't we start with you? Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and why? I think it'd be helpful. The why is always very helpful. Maybe start with the things. Start with who you are. What people think, who people think you are, as far as what you kind of do. You don't have to say specifically what you do, and then the why. Why did you want to partake in something like this?
Sure. Hey, everybody. Again, my name's Will. Grew up playing hockey pretty competitively, not as competitive as Dan took it, but definitely rang my bell back in the day, and I think over the years, this wasn't feeling myself and just figured I could kind of work through it. I think over time, it really started to impact my relationships. Professionally, I'm an executive at a pretty big company, do a lot of travel. I've always done really well professionally, but I found over the last few years, it was hard for me to, I guess, articulate myself, show up better in meetings and so forth. And I was never like that. When it was go time, whether it was playing hockey or in business, I was able to pull it together and just feeling sluggish. And I think there's over the last 5 years or so, it really was starting to impact my life on a day-to-day basis. So when I think about impulse control, being able to control my emotions, I'd get pissed at the simplest things. And as Dan mentioned, my flight was delayed last week and I was good. Like I felt like I was able, it's not important, right? There's more important things in life. When I think about the relationship piece, I also had some trauma back when I was a teenager. I lost both my parents in a few years. And the way I dealt with it, even at a young age, is, played hockey. And when that was over, I just hid behind my work. And I think in many ways it helped me professionally, but it's not healthy. I never dealt with it. And over the last 20 or 30 years, I was just shutting people out of my life. Best friends, people I played hockey with since we were 7 years old, just stopped talking to them for no reason. Very awkward. And, I was married and it was the same thing, just couldn't connect. And over time, I was making that circle smaller and smaller. So I wasn't present for my relationships. It was hard for me to connect because now I see it. I was afraid to be hurt. So I figured the smaller my circle would be, the easier it would be. I would protect myself from that. And that's no way to go through life. So I think, going through this, watching Dan's journey, and I reached out to doctors. I've, over the years looking for help. Nothing worked. Right. And seeing what Dan has gone through and his transformation, and I'm all in. Right. So where I see myself 12, 13 days post our journey together, I just have more control. I know what's important. And this is a day-to-day thing. And as Dan mentioned too, we help each other on a daily basis, just, build each other up when you have a bad day. Exercise, etc. Like diet is super important, but also catching yourself when you're having that moment. And I had a moment yesterday, and I was able to kind of disconnect for a little bit, catch myself, refocus. And today was a great day. So again, in a nutshell, I think the journey's been super exciting. One thing I'll share too, going through, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more time. I was with my girlfriend. We've been together 10 years now. I think I told her 4 or 5 times max in 10 years that I loved her. And that was because there was a block there. And I just couldn't share that emotion. Part of being present. I mean, I'm in a 10-year relationship. I don't know how the hell she stayed with me, but it was getting to the point where she needed more, and she was gonna, she deserved more. Part of the journey that we took 2 weeks ago, and Dan Fish could probably shift. I think I said I loved you probably 120 times that afternoon. It was just uncontrollable. And I'm just for that unlock has been amazing. I feel so much freer and lighter. Can't probably see. It's hard to make this look good, but color in my face, my eyes are better. I took a before and after, and I feel alive again. So, without further ado, I don't know if I can talk forever, but I want to give Fish a little opportunity too.
Yeah, Fishy, if you're done eating, and I'll spin back to you with some more questions. Well, but I could see an immediate difference in your face, your eyes. That's why I ask everybody to kind of take those before and afters, because you just look so much calmer. Want to integrate probably in the future an AI tool that can actually track this type of stuff, but coming in a little tense, a little anxious, and then everything just kind of drops. So thanks, buddy. Thanks for sharing. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate the trust, and really happy that you're on the path. Dan Fish, do you want to go? Do you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how we met and how you got called to do this work?
Yeah, man. What's going on, everybody? You guys hear me okay? All right, cool. So my name's Dan Fish. I'm 35, and my issue is solely concussions. So I had 3 in succession a couple years in a row. First one recovered in about 2 weeks playing lacrosse. Second one, it was about 8 months of continued symptoms. And I'd finally found a place that was really good at helping rehab concussions. I pretty much, if you've ever seen Carcillo's social media, I would say 98% of the symptoms that he talks about him having, I also had the same. So the second time when I was able to get into a rehab facility for it, by the time I was done there, I felt great. I was back to my normal self, was able to work, play sports after work, everything. 2 years after that, I got another concussion, and it's been 9 years of the same, all the symptoms I had came flooding back. I went back to the rehab place, except this time I did all the same stuff, and I was testing out of everything they could do for me, but I was probably, 60 or 70% better. I was able to get the headaches and the light sensitivity to go away, but I was still having a whole ton of stuff that was just, I wasn't able to live a normal life. I had to step down from my career and, kind of step away from friendships and certain things because I couldn't sustain normal lifetime activities basically. And then over the course of the next 3 years were really rough. And then kind of each year after that got slightly better. I changed career fields, kind of went back to working kind of intermittently when I could. But there was just so much stuff that was just still wrong. Insomnia, couldn't sleep. I'd try as hard as I could, all the tricks that I knew I could. Sometimes I'd fall asleep at midnight. Other times I'd be up till 5 or 6 a.m. Finally would pass out. And then I'd wake up at 12 in the afternoon or 2 in the afternoon, feel awful. Sometimes it honestly felt like I was drugged. Like my arms and my legs were heavy and I like could barely get out of bed. And then I would get up and then it would be like 6 hours of feeling just like dead. Like I got hit by a bus, like no energy, couldn't think straight, had anxiety, just wasn't functioning like myself. And then maybe around 9 or 10 p.m., I'd finally feel like, okay, I kind of feel a little normal. And that's right when you should be settling down to go to bed. So you can see how that vicious cycle day to day would just be awful. And so my wife and I would always talk about, she'd want me to try to either go back to the rehab place, see if they could help me, or try to find other doctors. And for anyone that's gone through the cycle of dealing with concussions, there's a lot of people that either say they know what they're talking about or should know what they're talking about, and they really have no idea, how to deal with concussion patients. So I was very reluctant to want to go back into searching for an answer. And my one stipulation to my wife and some of my other family members was, I am willing to find someone to get help, but they have to know what they're talking about when it comes to concussions. They got to be an expert or they have to have gone through it themselves or something like that. And so we kind of just went back and forth for a year or two, the last year or two, and I started really struggling again. And lo and behold, this guy's Instagram pops up on my story randomly. And it was a video of him, a video montage that he put together of years of photos while he was really in the thick of it, just going through it. And I just remember, I've told him this countless times, I remember seeing, we kind of look similar, but I remember seeing his faces in that time where he was going through it and seeing myself. I could tell exactly what he was going through, and I had never talked to him a day in my life, other than being a Flyers fan. So I reached out to him on Instagram, and he shot me his email, and we got in touch, and we talked for a couple times. And something was telling me, like, this guy gets it. I see where he was, and I see the way he looks now, and he's got his family, he's running businesses, he's doing all this stuff, and he's crushing it. And I'm like, well, how did you go from that to where you're at now? Because I need a piece of that, because I want my life back. I want to be able to, I have a 16-month-old son, I have a wife, I have a career that has been kind of put on hold. I became a real estate agent about a year ago, and I've been diving into that, but I was very limited on how much work I could actually do. Or if I had a terrible night, it was like the whole next day was a complete wash. I wouldn't get anything done. And I just wanted to be able to, have a career again, have a life again, get back to playing sports, like doing normal things that I should be able to do. But I just didn't have the energy or the will or the stamina mentally to be able to do. So, I got hooked up with him. We made it happen. We flew out for the weekend, and it was, anyone that's listening right now, I can honestly say that it was 100% a turning point for me. For things that I've started to feel in the last couple of days that I haven't felt in 9 years, since my last injury. I would constantly be negative about everything. If you ask my wife, changes in schedule or things that she would tell me that we need to do, and my first reaction would always be negative. Because it was like just waking up was hard enough. So doing anything deviating from the plan or having to throw anything else on the plate was it was too much for me to process. So probably the last couple of days, I've noticed that dark cloud's lifted, and I have like my positive self back again, and things that I used to love doing that I just didn't have the energy and even want to try to do, like that's starting to come back. I'm generally happier and more positive during the day. Like I just feel like these little slivers of light peeking through again through the dark cloud, and the dark cloud starting to dissipate, go away. And I haven't felt like that in 9 years. So, you know, and every day it seems to get a little better and a little better and a little better. So I am, you know, I'm all in on everything we got going on here. So
Fishy. Dude, I could feel it. I can
there's
feel
energy
it.
again, dude. There's
Yeah,
energy again.
I can see it.
It's
Nice work,
funny.
man.
You called out the negativity. I was the same way, Dan, like everything. And then I would get into
Dude,
it.
everything.
Now I let it go. I'm like, well, it's on him.
I mean,
Yeah.
I was the exact same way, boys. You know, always had a negative internal talk track that motivated me, with coaches always yelling. And same thing, Fishy, with anything that my wife did. And thank God we married some saints, putting up with our stuff.
Oh yeah.
Anything
Oh yeah.
that happened, it was always an inconvenience to me. Whereas now, right, I can be the observer and just kind of see it as something that we have to deal with because we're a family, and those are the things we need to do. And I don't get upset about it. It doesn't ruin my day, but it used to. It used to. I mean, I used to go through days just mad, and I would miss everything. I would miss, you know, a lot of time with my kids. So I'm really happy that, you know, you're starting to feel. And I mentioned to you, sometimes the afterburn of one of these ceremonies comes on a little later. It's not immediate. And that was similar in your ceremony. You were in it a little bit longer. And so it's really, really nice to hear that you have that you're starting to, you know, feel the things, and you're using the community too, right? Why don't you tell everybody about what we spoke about a little bit over the weekend, when, you know, you opened up to the group to say that you were struggling and maybe a little frustrated because you thought that, you know, the rest of the group was doing so well. And you know, and then we kind of jumped in and corrected you a little bit, but it could seem that way. So yeah, why don't you talk about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, Will feels the same way because he's been dealing with a lot of the stuff that he, you know, came to this to try to heal. So I'm sure he understands this too. But I tried to go into this process. Obviously, you know, I'm a very straight edge guy. I don't have people in my life that have delved into this world at all. So I knew nothing about mushrooms. So I just went into this like, look, I know, you know, Carcillo had amazing results with this. I'm going to try to go in with no expectations. You know, I'm not thinking this is like a fix all kind of thing that I'm just going to do this and a switch is going to flip and I'm going to be healed right away and everything. So I went in with that mindset, an open mindset, just let's see what happens. And I was in kind of the effects of the mushrooms in our ceremony. I seemed to be in it for probably about an hour, hour and a half later than the other three guys. And then probably for a couple days after, I don't know if I felt any different right away. It was just like this weird feeling of like, I feel something, but I don't really know what I'm feeling. And I'm trying to process everything that went on the last couple of days. And I came home and then kind of just feeling that same way, just trying to sort things out in my head and see where I was at. And I started to have a lot of anxiety. Like, you know, is this just another thing that I've tried that's not going to work? You know, it was a financial investment. It was an investment of time and away from my family, work, and everything. And, oh my gosh, what if this isn't working? Am I one of the ones where it's, you know, it's not going to help me? And, you know, that just negative spiral of thoughts just over and over for like 2 days. And I wanted to reach out to the guys, but I also didn't want to reach out. I was like, almost wanted to like give it another day and just see like, all right, well, maybe I'll wake up tomorrow and things will be better. And that next day they weren't either. So I had 2 days where they were just really rough mentally, just trying to sort through everything, trying not to freak out, trying to, you know, hope and pray everything would start to change. And we were talking in the chat, and I just reached out and like, guys, I'm struggling. Like, I feel like everybody else is sunshine and rainbows, which obviously that was also my mind, just, you know, the anxiety playing, because obviously the other guys weren't like on cloud nine either. But I reached out to them, and they kind of brought me back down to reality a little bit, like, just give it time, you know, blah, 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 stay positive. And like the next day, I woke up and I felt a difference. And then kind of every day after that, it's been slightly better, slightly better, slightly better. And just having, you know, the other guys and Carcillo just to be able to talk to, knowing what you're going through, and kind of be able to, you know, level your head off and your anxiety off a little bit. And it was like, that was just like a breath of fresh air for me. And then every day after that's been better and better and better. So I'm excited for the future for the first time in a long time that I'm actually feeling and seeing results. And my wife has told me multiple times over the last couple of days, like, wow, like you're so much more energy. Hey, you did all this stuff today and you're like still feeling good. You don't have a headache. You're not needing to lay on the couch. Like you just keep going and you seem to feel okay. Are you feeling okay? I'm like, yeah, I feel good. And that sounds kind of insignificant, but for someone that's been feeling like absolute crap for 9 years, that is absolutely massive. And there's nothing else that I've done that has done this to me, to where I've had these results, the positivity, the feeling. I'm able to sleep, and if I don't sleep one night, I can get up the next day and I'm not like a zombie. It just takes me like an hour or two and I'm ready to go. So I'm just excited for the future for the first time in a long time.
Hip hip. Hip
Yeah.
hip
Oh, yeah,
hooray. Yeah, buddy. William, are you feeling the same energy
Yeah,
boost and you're able to go a little further, a little longer, with a little more ease?
absolutely. I mean, it's probably almost 15 years. I went to every doctor under the sun as far as I'm always tired. I mean, there's days I'll go to sleep at 8 o'clock and I'll get the 8 or 9 hours every night. I would wake up every 2 or 3 hours for half an hour and roll around and fall back to sleep. But I felt like I was still getting my sleep and I wasn't. I would wake up exhausted. And it probably, I think now, so ever since that day, I mean, I went to sleep, I think 7 o'clock that night. I slept for like 10 hours, but it's been 12 or 13 days. I sleep straight through the night and I wake up refreshed, which is helping as well. I'm starting to put it together. I think the end of every day, whether it was a work day and I'm in front of folks or just a Sunday, I'd be exhausted. And I kind of picture it as I was probably only using half of my brain. Like I was overworking my brain. And that's why I can never turn it off. I'm always moving. Like, honestly, I feel like not only is this going to save my career, my relationship, it's saved my life. And again, like Fish said, thank Dan for, kind of leading the way. So really cool.
You guys don't have to thank me. You guys did all the work, right? This is
Yeah, we
just,
do.
you know,
Yeah, we do, bud.
you guys get an opportunity. You get an opportunity, and I'm dead serious about this. You took the opportunity, right? You trusted that something good was going to come of it. You stuck with it. It's not immediate. This is not a panacea. This you don't just take something like this and then all of a sudden you're immediately fixed. This is work. The ceremony is work. The preparation is work. There are anxious moments. There are moments filled with the unknown, which can always be tense. And you guys did a really good job managing it all pre and post, and you're continuing to do it. And so now, the real work will continue where you have to just stay in it. And, but you got a glimpse, right? So if people get a glimpse, this is why this medicine is so impactful, not only about what it does neurologically, spiritually, but if people get a glimpse of how you should feel and the energy and the calmness that comes from doing this type of work, then it's really hard to go back. And Yeah, no. So thank you guys, because I've said this before and I'll say it again. I got a lot out of it, and I know the other two guys did as well. So, yeah, go ahead.
I think, yeah, I mentioned it earlier, I'm better prepared to go through the journey now because I can catch myself. Before, I didn't have not only the knowledge, but the ability to catch
Yeah.
myself. So that's why I'm so energized for every day. And when we do have a bad day, I can kind of reel it back in and focus on what's important, and still have a lot of work to do. But like I said, I'm much more prepared for it.
Got a head start. You got a head start. Danny, any final comments? We'll get to
Yeah,
some questions.
I feel the same way as Will just said. Like, it's not that, this switch was just flipped and everything all of a sudden is better. It's just more like the rays of light are starting to sneak back in, and you can latch onto them and realize that. Like today, my wife had said a couple things. I was busy doing something, and she started talking about some things that we had to do. And initially, that same negative, track popped up in my head. Except this time, I knew it, and I could be like, no, and stop it before the words came out of my mouth, and be like, why am I having instant negativity for that? It's not even something that's like a problem. And I just said, all right, babe, no problem. And like before, it would have been like, oh, come on, like wait, blah, blah, like just nonsense, right? So that's kind of the deal right now, at least the last couple of days. And it just, I feel like I have the opportunity to where now it's a choice. I can work on myself and I can make that conscious choice. Like, no, I'm not gonna be negative. I'm gonna need to work on this, blah, blah, blah. As to where before it just wasn't a choice. It just felt like I was on this runaway train and I couldn't stop it. So yeah.
This is where, if you've been on these webinars before, you understand now with Dan's comment, this is how this medicine breaks up destructive thought patterns and helps create new thought patterns that Dan has to work. But the more that he works it, the more he catches himself, the stronger that loop gets. Similar to a negative feedback, the more you stay in it, the harder it is to break. It is the exact same thing with good loop feedbacks. The more that you use it, the harder those will become to break. So nice work, buddy. Tracy says, thanks for sharing. Andrew says, thank you for sharing to the both of you. So happy for you. Thank you for sharing. Wow, that's great. Thanks for sharing. Amazing. Happy to hear you're feeling better. Thank you, Dan, for sharing your story. Very relatable. Your concussions and symptoms are very similar to my husband's story. So you're already touching another life, Dan, which is what I told you would start to happen. Thanks for sharing. From Mary, Lisa, thank you both. Andrew Gard, what other before/after measures are common with brain scans? Are you asking what brain scans? Yes. And in addition, William mentioned pre and post photos of himself. Curious if there's anything else measured, questionnaires, neurotests, more objective. Yeah. So I can take this. This was our first retreat. So we didn't have an opportunity to get scans. One of the participants took a QEEG prior, and then post we do have questionnaires that I'm going to circulate to the guys, but not for another 14 or 13 days. So I'll do it 30 days prior. And in the future, when we have our own facility open, there will be more neurological testing there. There will be blood work panels done, and there will also be some gut microbiome. And we will collect data. This comes from my past life in an IRB format. So we'll be able to publish that data. And clinical trials through the FDA are only required in a phase 3 study to have about 100 to 300 patients. Oregon has already treated almost, I think it's around 1,700 clients. They call them clients. So 1,700 people have gone through a similar journey that Dan and William have gone through. So it'll be very interesting to see that data once it comes out. Wait, there was a question for William, right? William mentioned pre and post photos. Yeah, okay. And he'll be I'm sure William will be happy to share on his socials that pretty mug. Right, well.
Oh yeah, I could do that.
And I would love to reshare that. So let's see what else we got. Question about the retreats. Is the Portland retreat 2 days? Is that correct? This is what it seemed like. Sorry if that was confusing, Stephanie. So those are just the 2 days that we're in the clinic. It's a 3-day retreat. Get in on day 1 and prepare, get to the house, go in person to the actual retreat center on the first day. Day 2 is the dosing day. So usually around 9 or 10 a.m. And then day 3 is the integration first day, usually a sweat, sauna, steam room. But Stephanie, if you'd like to email me, I can put my email in the chat. I'll send you the deck that has everything if you didn't already get it. And next time I send that email out, I'll use the Dropbox link that I created. What else? So second question, Daniel, you mentioned that you are opening your own place in Oregon. Is the place you're opening up going to be a group retreat setting or one-on-one? So it'll be both. It'll have a group space. It'll also have private rooms where you can do one-on-ones. Do you have any idea on price point? Yeah, so the price point will be much lower, hoping, than the retreat model. That being said, we're just able to obviously manage things like the medicine and facilitator costs, etc. I can give everybody more information once we get a little closer to the opening, which happy to say will most likely be within the next 30 to 45 days, assuming everything goes well with getting the intended property under contract and licenses filed, etc. What's the plan for Dan and William or any other unnamed participant? This question is too personal. It is not. Any idea how often or when they need another mushroom retreat? So the plan is for these guys is to just stay close now to this community. This isn't something that, again, we've said this before, that we take lightly. This is a bond that I think that these 4 individuals, including myself, will always have. It's a profound experience. There were at the Johns Hopkins study, 80% of the trial participants who went in with a terminally ill cancer diagnosis to get rid of their end-of-life anxiety using psilocybin ranked a psilocybin ceremony or their ceremony as one of the top 5 experiences of their life, in front of, for example, things like childbirth and the death of a loved one, for example. So the plan is to just stay close. The plan is to help and continue to help Dan and William, should they need it, with confidence in understanding, recognizing, and then quickly shifting their mindsets into good habits. And it's work now. It's consistent discipline and routine to stay within this protocol. And on the days that they don't, the good thing about all of this is that, on the days that, they see themselves slipping, they're going to feel shame and they're going to feel guilt. And all they have to do is just get up the next day and decide to do what makes them feel good. And, so Dan, William, I don't know if you guys want to add anything to what your plans are. Maybe touch a little bit about, Dan, I know that you recently joined a gym. Will, I know that you recently hit the hotel gym, which is uncommon, but why don't you guys talk about what you're doing from a nutrition, diet, and exercise standpoint?
Yeah, you want to grab it, Fish?
Sure. So I'd already kind of switched over to eating like a lot of organics and stuff, and just trying to process food, sugars, all the stuff that's causes inflammation. I've already, my wife and I have already tried to weed a lot of that out. Getting our water intake up, a lot of stuff like that. But I always struggled with the exercise part, which it's like concussions are like the sickest joke almost, because it's like everything that makes you feel better is almost impossible to do. As for a normal person, like they make the decision, like, oh, I don't feel like doing that, and it's more like a lazy thing or like a lack of discipline. And like concussions, is like it's just darn near impossible. So sleep and exercise and stuff like that. So we're really just trying to get. Honestly, I tried to do all the same stuff I'm doing now before the mushroom ceremony, and I just struggled. I could never keep it up. We would eat healthy, and then we would go back to eating crappy, and then we'd work out for a little bit, and then we stop working. Like there just wasn't. I just couldn't sustain healthy habits. And since I've gotten home, it's kind of like that's also one of the things that has been a lot different. I've like really wanted to keep the momentum going that we got from that weekend and just keep it going. So my wife and I have really doubled down on we're only getting healthy food. We shopped around for a bunch of gyms in our area for things that we could do just working out, but also hitting the sauna and doing other things like that. So it's obviously a financial burden to add things, but we just have to do it. Like we're fully committed to not losing the feeling that I have right now and just trying to take it and run. So anything that I can do, sleep, work out, food, get out in nature, taking walks with my wife and my kid every day. We're making those things a priority because it's, I already felt maybe 3 or 4 days after I got home, I felt myself starting to slip back into those bad habits. And my wife and I talked about it, and we're like, no, we're taking action on this. We're not going to do that. We're not going back. We're moving forward, and that's that. So
Similar to Dan, I mean, diet. I lost 5 pounds. I want to take another 5 off because I'm eating healthier. The exercise or just being out in nature, super important. I think Sunday I took my dog for a good walk in the morning. Weather was beautiful, and it was like that would have been enough for me. And I'm like, no, I'm going to get the bike, and I went out and got more, and I felt great. I think Dan mentioned too, like I travel a lot during the week. Stay in some pretty good hotels most of the time, and they all have a really nice gym. I'm up early. So I worked out last week too and felt great. I was so much more productive throughout the day. So I think, like I said, I mean, moving forward, there's times like I cut coffee out. Been drinking coffee for over 30 years. A lot of time, I mean, I'll have 5 to 7 cups some days, and it's just what I did. I think I had 3 cups of coffee really in the last 3.5 weeks. I drink tea, love it. Even with dinner, like a glass of wine is fine, but I don't even want it. I'm drinking more water than I ever have. And just really, that's really helping and super important as well.
Hydrate. For sure, buddy.
I thought of one other thing, if I could add on to what we both said. I was actually talking to my wife earlier this evening, and the only thing that I remember saying to her before the ceremony was, whether it was work or things we had to do for family or even things that I loved doing, everything was a thought. I had to think about it, like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. Okay, I got to ramp up for this. I got to do that. And it was like, it was every big things and little things. It was just such a drain to have to like think about it and do it and all that stuff. And my hope was, okay, I just want to be able to have the choice. Like, I just want to feel good enough where I can have the choice to, I know I should do this, I need to do it, or okay, I'm not going to do that today. As to where like before, for the last several years, it's just been like, I am just not physically and mentally able to do that. Like, I just can't. I want to do it, I just can't. And so my hope was just give me the opportunity to at least try, right? Just give me the opportunity to like make the conscious choice to like do it or not do it. And what's happened the last couple of days, I noticed it today, and I was talking to my wife about it. It's like, it's been so much better than that. For the first time in so many years, I don't even think about it anymore because it's not like my brain is just dreading all of this stuff. I just was like, oh, I got to do this, and this today. All right, let me get started, blah, blah. And I just did all this stuff today. And afterwards, I was fine. Like, I wasn't completely knocked out and needed to lay on the couch. I wasn't, sometimes my temperature would rage. Like, all this stuff would happen because of what I did. I just went and did all this stuff today, and I still feel good. Like, I'm on this call and I'm talking, and I feel fine. And that is for anyone that's going through the same things that we've been going through, like, that's like sounds too good to be true, or it sounds like a miracle, and like, but that's how I'm feeling today. And for me, that is like a revolution. But it's like mind blowing for me. I still kind of can't believe it. So
It's that's the special sauce, making a plan, doing it without any struggles, and then having energy to, be with your family and do some extra things like this, like raise awareness, provide hope. It's the good stuff, man. So good to hear. So good to hear. Any idea how often or when they need another mushroom retreat? So that's just entirely dependent on how the guys are doing. There are studies, the John Hopkins studies, that have shown, this puts people's depression into remission for over a year, one treatment. So, I think it's really dependent on somebody's lifestyle after a ceremony. And, some people have stayed with, underneath that pink cloud for quite some time, months, years. So can't really say when or if they'll need another one. Again, this isn't a panacea. Life happens. Both pretty high operating guys, and so if there are ever times where things start to get a little bit overwhelming in life, with the job, with the mission, with the family, etc., then, and you can't figure it out on your own through float tanks, diet, cold exposure, exercise, the tools that we have, then there's always this one again. So maybe a silly question, but can somebody have an allergy to mushrooms? I think you can be allergic to anything. But yeah, I mean, it is a fungus. So absolutely. I'm not a doctor. This isn't medical advice. These guys are just talking from their own experience. So, check with your physician. It's an incredible testimony. That's John Famey. I don't know, I'll butcher your name, John. John's a good dude. Known him for a few years. So, and he's going back and forth on, possibly diving in. So, I put my email, good spot at the end of May. Absolutely. Zach, just email me. You got my email. Amazing testimony. So rare to hear others who've experienced the same symptoms. Curious how large the dose is for the retreat. So Brent, it's dependent on the facilitator, on the group. But these particular men were ready to see something. And so the dose was on the larger side. Curious, can you email out the link? Yes, I will email out this link to the Zoom recording so that everybody knows. I post these all the time on my YouTube channel. So record them, post on the YouTube channel, but I'll be sure to email it out along with the deck to kind of run a show. Amazing. Thank you guys and your families. Great work. Really inspirational for someone that's prepping for my ceremony. Nice, Lorimer. Get some. M Miracle. Do you microdose regularly or save it for ceremonies? So there's, for somebody like in Dan's position, or even Will's, with a history of, repetitive head trauma, or myself, I'll just speak from my own experience. There were big doses and there was a washout period, usually 14 to 21 days. And then there was dosing, just because prolonged exposure can not only help solidify these pathways, help us stay in it, but also it's just, good practice. It's a potent neuro anti-inflammatory. If part of your journey is to continue to lose weight, mushrooms fill us up. There's a few companies out there through the FDA that are actually researching it for a weight loss solution. So yeah, it can be used in many, many, many different ways. Well, I mean, you can't hear the clapping, but I think there's a lot of people clapping for you guys and rooting you on. So appreciate you guys sharing. And if anybody else has any questions or wants to unmute themselves, we've got 8 minutes left. There we go. Lisa's clapping. Stephanie's clapping. I didn't know you can do that. Stephanie's raised her hand. Let's see. Go ahead, Stephanie. Let me see if I can get you off. I don't know if I can get you off. Oh, there we go.
I was just trying to clap, not raise my hand.
Okay. You got it. You got it.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions about literally anything, just throw it on out there. I'd love to answer. And I'll probably do my best to be on any future ones of these that Dan does. Just an open book. Anybody that's curious or has literally anything, be more than happy to share.
Hey, I have a question, if that's cool, if you guys can hear me.
Damn right, Brent. Go ahead.
Hey, I'm Brent. I'm here in San Francisco, ex-rugby player. I've had a lot of the similar symptoms you guys talked about, and looking forward to learning more about this. But I guess my question is around any kind of maybe like fear you had going into the retreat. And I guess that question stemming from a psychology class I took in college where my teacher told me if you're male, have a history of head injuries, and do psychedelics, you're at higher risk of psychosis. So kind of counterintuitive to like the healing properties of this, but just curious if you had any like fear going into it and how you dealt with that.
I'll take the psychosis question first, and then you guys will and Dan jump in. So everybody gets screened by an EMR, and then all these service centers have medical directors. So we don't admit anybody that are on antipsychotic medications or that have a history of bipolar or schizophrenia in their family. So that kind of
Cool.
guards against what you're talking about. But Dan, Will, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Dan.
I was gonna say I'll let you go first. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, definitely. Great question. Yeah, I think definitely was a little scared, right? Because you don't know. But like what Dan did, like we had quite a few calls leading up to the actual ceremony, Zoom calls where we're not only to get to know each other, but to talk through the expectations. We met the facilitators, which was super helpful. And I think, the morning of we were all super excited, but there's that part of unknown, like you don't have that control for that period. So you don't know. And I think that's what was very, I guess, enlightening. And I think he was there. Like I went through it, man. And there was moments throughout the journey where I never felt so elated, I guess is a great word, light. Like I literally was so happy. I was telling my brothers in the room, like how much I love them. I was laughing, I was clapping. Like I just felt it. And then I'd have a moment where I was kind of on a journey going where I didn't want to go. And that was that fear and that anger. But I think all the prep work we did leading into it was like, you have to like let go and don't fight it. And I just kept remembering that there's breathing work that we did. And I was when I was going through the bad moment, I was so angry and I was just like, and I didn't want to do it again. And I'd come back out and I was like, and it just felt great. It was like the greatest feeling. And I think it was an unlock. Like I mentioned earlier, I couldn't saying I love you, couldn't do it. And because that was that block too, that I had to get through, but yeah, so definitely, I think if there's not a little bit of anxiety going into anything like this,
Starts at 10.
that's normal. But I'll tell you what, we were
9:40.
and we did it together, and and just super happy. And I think it's really when you think about the journey, as Dan mentioned earlier, we're there for each other. Like if I have a bad day, I'll share it on our group chat, and we pick each other up. So yeah, it's been great.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, so for me, it was I was like all in. Once I talked to Dan, I saw social media stuff. I got in touch with him. We talked a couple times. Like I was all in. I was like ready to go. I was like, I've exhausted what I feel like is everything else that I could try over the years. It hasn't worked. No one else has any answers for me. And I was like, I'm all in, I'm good, let's go. And then I had no reservations, no anxiety. And then like the day before I was supposed to fly out, I started like feeling it a little bit. I'm like, oh man, is this the right decision? Like, what am I doing? Like, I don't know if this is even going to work. Like, what's going on here? I started getting all nervous. I started talking to my wife. I'm like, and then I think one of the other guys I was with us, he kind of put it the best. I think it was like a anxious anticipation. For any athletes, you said you played rugby, like that kind of like that pre-game feel right before the game starts. We got the butterflies. You just feel like let's just go. Like I just want to get this over with. Like let's just get it going. That's kind of I think how we all felt. All four of us felt like the day leading up to and then the morning of. It was like nervousness, anxiousness, like fear of the unknown kind of thing. Like how am I going to react like this? Like, certain people react different ways, and some people's journeys, because it is a journey. It's you go to the facility and you take this stuff and it starts to hit you, and some people have lighter things and some people really go through it. When there's like emotional things that come out, there's just you don't really know where it's going to take you, as far as just like memories and different things that come up, because obviously everybody has their different things that have happened to them or that they're struggling with. But yeah, there was definitely nervousness, but I would do it again 1,000 times, and I would recommend that anyone that's struggling with any of this kind of stuff 100% do it, because the results that I've gotten from this, and also the going through it with these other guys, and then having Carcillo to like talk to and go over things with, like there's nothing else that I've done with my other 3 concussions and all of my pain and all the doctors, all the stuff I've been through. I wish I had known about this 9 years ago. I would have done it right away. So
yeah.
Totally. Well, appreciate you guys. Thanks for being honest about everything. And yeah, it's frustrating. I wish I didn't hear that comment from my psychology teacher, because I would have done this a long time ago. So appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brent.
you still can, man. You still can.
It's there.
Yeah, I will. I actually signed up for the Oregon one today. So looking forward to it.
Let's go. Let's go.
Nice, buddy.
Thank you. See you guys. Thanks.
Andrew.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think Chris has a couple questions you might have skipped over, because I think he might have messaged me direct message. So I'm kind of Zoom illiterate, but
Oh, okay.
I just want to see if he wanted to ask them, because I think they might have just come to me personally by
Let me
mistake.
see. I'm not sure.
They say like red direct message on the.
Uh-huh. Yep. MRIs, prescribed the prior brain scans. Yeah. Yeah, with the brain scans, we'll use maybe some QEEG, etc. So Here.
Like he asked what strain of psilocybin are they using?
yeah,
he
there's all
said
different
using a
types.
couple ones. So
Yeah, there's all
I think a
different
couple of his
types.
questions came to me by mistake, just directly.
Oh, okay. Well, Chris, if you want to unmute and ask, fear from those authority figures can be quite impactful, and yes, they can. Yeah, I mean, strains is probably. I mean, we probably have to spend. There he is. What's up, Chris?
Hey, Daniel.
How you doing,
Yeah, I
buddy?
was just asking. I take about 5 different strains myself now. I grow my own,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just curious. With your experience or anyone else's experience, if you guys notice a specific strain that's more stronger than other ones.
Yeah, the strongest I've ever had is, and I think one of the strongest psilocin contents is steel magnolia. So that genetic is pretty solid. And then when you go to these facilities, they usually have a menu of
They got
yeah. So there's licensed manufacturers, there's licensed testing facilities, and you'll be able to choose from a menu, potency, etc., depending on the group and what you guys want to experience and see. So,
Gotcha. All right. Yeah.
Mhm.
So far, I've noticed penis envy is the strongest one I've tried so far.
Yeah, and it's pretty visual for sure.
Yep.
Um, Yeah, that's a good one. It's a great one.
All right,
So
thanks.
yeah, buddy. All right, guys. So I mean, I just want to say thanks again to Will and to Dan. You guys will have access to them again. The other two guys were trying to hop on, but I don't know if the meeting ID didn't get shared, but Matt and Dan may want to share next time. But I thought this two-person was perfect. Nice cadence. So I'll post this on my YouTube channel, and if you guys have any other questions, we'll reconvene next Thursday, and hope everybody has a great weekend. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for coming. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Take care, everybody.